Thanks so much for tuning into this discussion of the cost of living in the Naples and Marco Island area. I'm James Headley with the Moving to Naples channel, and if you have any questions about what you see and hear in this video, please contact me anytime. And of course, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel to be the first to know when new videos are released, and share with anyone you think might be interested in our slice of paradise here in Southwest Florida. Let's dive right into one of the most common questions I get from out-of-town clients considering a purchase here. What's it cost to live in Naples or on Marco Island? Be sure to stick around until the end of the video for 5 of the most common additional expenses you should be aware of but may not know about. So obviously the biggest expense you're going to have in moving to this area full or part-time is going to be the purchase of your home. At the time of this recording in October of 2021, the median selling price for a home in the Naples area stood at $455,000. This is actually up 19% from September of last year and really shows the heavy tilt that we've gone towards a seller's market here in the area, starting in about February of 2021. There is some good news on that front. There's been a little bit of anecdotal softness recently. We'll see what happens when the crowds return and we get into full season, but there is some good news on the buyer front, at least right now. On Marco Island, you can actually expect to pay just under $800,000 for the median home, by the way. So beyond the cost of your home, if you decide to purchase in one of the countless resort-like developments that make up much of the Naples real estate landscape, your next largest expense is probably going to be your homeowners association or HOA dues. In a handful of primarily golf communities, you may end up with a one-time fee upwards of $50,000 with annual fees of another $30,000 or more on top of that. Don't worry though, there are communities with outstanding amenities where the one-time fees are under $5,000 and the annual hits even considerably less than that. And finally, there are lots of single-family homes in places like Golden Gate Estates and Marco Island where you won't pay any of those fees. One of the few downsides of being so close to the Gulf of Mexico is that in most of Naples and Marco Island, you'll want, if not need, to pay for flood insurance on top of your standard homeowner's insurance. With FEMA's recent introduction of their Risk Rating 2.0, looks like our local rates are going to go up an average between $100 to $200 per year for flood insurance to account for that greater risk of storm surge primarily. Again, your rates will vary significantly depending upon where you live, the elevation of your house, etc. But you might expect your total insurance bill for a waterfront home on Marco to approach or exceed $10,000 per year. While if you're living in a more inland location like Lely Resort, you might pay closer to a third of that amount. The bottom line is just be aware of this potentially costly variable when you begin searching for a new home in the area. Of course, any discussion of the cost of living would certainly not be complete without mentioning taxes. In my opinion, compared to the primarily northern areas I lived in prior to relocating to Naples, property taxes here are very reasonable. I personally pay less than $3,000 annually on a 3-bedroom home in a very nice golf and country club community, for example. And of course, there's no state income tax in Florida. So once you've established residency, if that's in your plans, you can expect to put a little extra cash in your bank account each year. There are some other favorable tax policies in Florida, such as homesteading, that I would also be happy to discuss with you. So please do contact me anytime. With those primarily home-specific expenses discussed, let's talk about some of the other variable costs you'll need to account for. One of the major draws of Naples is the amazing weather, so you won't have to worry about your winter heating bills. I can count on both hands with fingers left over the number of days I turn my heat on in an average year. Some years I don't ever turn it on other than to run it to make sure that it still works and to get rid of that new heat smell, if we will. On the other hand, you will definitely be running your air conditioner for most of the year here in Naples. Obviously, your utility costs are going to vary based upon your usage, how cool you keep your home, how often you run your pool heater, and the like. But I can tell you that for single-family homes in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot range with pools, your average monthly bill will probably be around $300. Turning from there to gas prices. Of course, we've seen these rise recently, and if you'll be driving around a lot for work or pleasure, you should be pleased to know that the gas prices in Naples tend to be about 20 cents below the national average. For example, in the third week in October of 2021, the average national gas price was sitting at $3.36 per gallon, while our local prices are around $3.15. Now, let's talk about something a little more fun, perhaps, food and drink. If you are planning to stay in a lot, I expect you'll find the prices here to be comparable, if not better, than what you would find in most of the rest of the country. There's good competition in the grocery space with national and regional brands like Winn-Dixie, Publix, Aldi, and Walmart having a lot of locations around Naples. And as a bonus for you warehouse shoppers, there's a Costco and a Sam's Club in Naples. If you're looking for a BJ's Warehouse, you do have to go to Fort Myers for that. On the drinks front, there are multiple Total Wines in Naples, as well as ABC stores. Grocery stores sell wine and beer here in Collier County, and some have adjacent liquor stores as well. And turning to the food scene, if you do plan to dine out, you can run the gamut here from the usual fast food and fast casual spots, all the way through fine dining experiences that will rival anything you can find in major cities around the country. And that's coming from a guy who lived in New York a few times in his life. The bottom line is that whatever your budget, you can find something to help you manage your bottom line here in Naples, if not necessarily your waistline. And I promised if you stayed until the end, I'd share the top 5 additional expenses you might not necessarily think of. So let's dive into those, with the first being the idea of the CDD, or Community Development District. So while this is included in your annual property tax bill, so not a separate charge per se, Naples area has a number of different CDDs. Essentially, these are how developers of huge communities like Fiddler's Creek, Pelican Bay, Lely Resort, etc. finance the installation of infrastructure like roads, landscaping, street lights, and the like when they were developing these communities. A portion of these costs was then allocated to each home site, with the CDD being broken down into the capital portion. In other words, the debt servicing on the original infrastructure loan and the annual operating and maintenance budget. Depending upon the age of the home you purchase relative to the community, as well as how the prior owner approached the CDD, you could have 20 plus years of the capital portion remaining, which effectively can add thousands to your annual tax bill. With the effective interest rates on these CDD capital contributions well above market rates, I always advise clients that it's a good idea to pay down that capital portion in its entirety wherever possible. You'll still have the operations and maintenance portion to pay as part of your property tax each year, but those are always much lower, almost always much lower numbers. Currently, they're just under $800 in Lely Resort and about twice that amount in Fiddler's Creek, for example. The second expense that you may overlook is if you're buying a pool home, you'll likely have a pool service company that comes and takes care of all the chemicals and cleanings for your pool on a weekly basis. For this, figure on about $1,000 to $1,200 a year for the service. Moving on to number 3, unless it's included with your HOA dues, which in some communities it is, you will also likely want to spend $400 or so per year for a pest service to keep all those unwelcome critters from entering your home. And in case you didn't know, our climate here is definitely welcoming to lots of mostly friendly critters. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen a few crawling around in the background, primarily geckos. And number 4, if you purchase in a community with a mandatory club membership, you'll also want to be aware of any annual food and beverage minimum you're required to spend each year. These can range from as low as a few $100s a year to well into the thousands. And finally, if you'll be a snowbird, investor, or simply plan to be away from your future Naples area home for any extended periods of time, you'll likely want to consider hiring a home watch person or company. From basic services such as making sure your air conditioning has not stopped working, flushing your toilets, or simply making sure that everything's intact, to more extensive services like putting up hurricane shutters, driving your car around the block a few times during extended absences, or just about anything else you can think of. These service providers typically provide a variable menu to give you the peace of mind that when you return to your Naples home, it's as you left it and as you expected. These services can cost you well under $100 per month to double that or more, depending upon your house and what services you select from the menu. I hope this has helped to give you a sense for the cost of living here in the Naples area. If you have any questions or want to dive into more specifics about what it might be like for you to live here, please contact me anytime. I've worked with dozens of out-of-town clients looking to relocate or purchase second or investment homes here, and would love for you to be the next. And if you want to learn more about other aspects of moving to and or living in Naples, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends who might also be interested. Thanks so much, and see you next time.